There are 1,000 good reasons to vote for Barack Obama. And there's not a single good reason for any worker, especially a union worker, to vote against Barack Obama. And there's only one very bad reason. And that's because he's not white. And I want to talk about that for just a minute, because I saw that for myself during the primary in Pennsylvania. I grew up in a little coal mining town called Nemacolin. I went back home to vote, and I ran into a woman that I've known for years. She was active, quite frankly, in Democratic politics when I was still in grade school. We got to talking, and I asked her if she had made up her mind who she was supporting, and she said, "Oh yes, absolutely. I'm voting for Hillary. There's no way I'd ever vote for Barack Obama." And I said, "Well, why is that?" And she said, "Well, because he's Muslim." And I told her, I said, "Well, see, that's just not true. He's as much a Christian as you and me, and anyway, so what if he's Muslim?" Then she shook her head and she said, "Well, he won't wear an American flag pin." And I looked at my lapel and I said, I'm not wearing one. Quite frankly, you're not wearing one either. I said, "But besides, he wears one plenty of times. He just says that it takes more than wearing a plastic flag pin made in China to be patriotic." Well, we'd been making eye contact up until this point, and she said, "Well, I just don't trust him." And I said, "Why is that?" She dropped her voice, and she looked down at her feet, and very quietly and sheepishly said, "Because he's black." And I said, "Look around Nemacolin. Nemacolin's a dying town. There's no jobs here. Our kids can't stay here. They've got to move away to try to find a living because there's no future. And here's a man, Barack Obama, who's going to fight for us and fight for jobs and fight for a future for little towns like Nemacolin, and you're telling me you won't vote for him because of the color of his skin. My God, lady, you're crazy." See, brothers and sisters, we can't tap dance around the fact that there's a lot of folks out there, just like that woman. And a lot of them are good union people. And they just can't get past the idea that there's something wrong with voting for a black man. Well, those of us who know better can't afford to look the other way. We can't afford to let those statements be made and not challenge them directly and on the spot. And I know the tendency is to sort of walk away and to avoid it. But we can't do that. And I'll tell you, I'm not one for quoting dead philosophers. Back in the 1700s, Edmund Burke said that all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Well, there is no evil that's inflicted more pain and more suffering than racism. And it's something that we in the labor movement have a special responsibility to challenge. It's our responsibility because we know better than anybody else how racism is used to divide working folks. We've seen how companies set worker against worker. How they take one group of workers and give them a few crumbs, and then use that group of workers to push the other group down. And then after they get the second group down, they come looking for the first group. We've seen something else too, though. We've seen that when we do cross the color line, when we do stand together as one, and I mean we stand together as one, no one but no one can then keep us down. See, that's why, imperfect as we are, the labor movement today is the most integrated institution in American life. And that's why when we encounter the kind of racism that I heard in Nemacolin, we can't afford to just shrug our shoulders and walk off. That's why we can't let those bigoted wisecracks go unchallenged. That's why when you hear someone say that America isn't ready for a black president, you have to come back and say, you may not be ready for Barack Obama, but I sure as hell am, because I want a better America, a better